We are excited to welcome Reshmee, a dynamic voice in the Power Platform community, known for her deep technical insight and the practical problem-solving approach. With a strong background of the app development and API integration, Reshmee consistently empowers makers and the developers to push the boundaries of whatever possibles within the Power Platform, especially the Power Automation. In today's session, Rashmi tackle a challenge many of us are facing, handling the delegation limit within the Power Apps when calling the Microsoft Graph APIs. She will walk us through the smart techniques to work around the delegation constraints, optimize performance, and ensure the scalable, secure data access using the Graph APIs. If you have ever struggled with a large data set or hit a delegation wall, the session is packed with actionable strategies and the real world examples to help you to build better, faster apps. Let's give a warm welcome to Rashmi. Over to you, Rashmi.
Very good evening, everyone. So, welcome to another Power Collab session. So, today, what I'm going to show is how to handle delegation limit when querying SharePoint list data. By default, like Power Apps, whenever we kind of connect to SharePoint list, by default, it has like a 500 delegation limit. And one way to get around it is to use a non-delegable functions to be able to query like more than 500. Otherwise, you can change your delegation limit to 2000. Like if you see my screenshot, I have like a few SharePoint list and I have one which has like up to 10,000. And what I have done here is just a simple Power Apps to search through the list, which is like nearly 10,000 some in there. So one of the limitation is even if you use non-delegable function like a filter, what we can't do is to use like contains, like to do a substring. Like they say, I just if I show like if I open one of the list and let's say I want to return all the products which contains a particular word. Let's say like for example here, I want just to find any product which contains trim, like using like Power Apps, it's quite difficult to do that because there's no kind of similar function to allow to do a substring or contains uh, when you do a search within a SharePoint list. So one of the alternative which I found was to use Power Automate, which again, this is like a very simple solutions. We want to keep it lean and we don't want to add additional complexity, adding a Power Automate to it. So we just wanted something which is kind of inbuilt or which is kind of we can easily can't be done with using just Power Apps and nothing else. It's just a simple solution. So right now, if I just do something else, because I already did particular search before, if I do Freezer, for example, it kind of yeah, some pagination which kind of show like the number of record that's returning, but I kind of hard coded it so that it maximum return up to 1,000 records. So I'm going to show you how I did that. So here it just returns everything with the product name where we have freezer. So if I go into the search, I have like I've had a hidden button search, mainly because what I'm trying to handle is when I try to click, I have a little search button which is here, and I wanted like when I'm typing in the text box when I press enter, it's kind of similar like to other platform like on website when you type in particular text box, you click on enter, it kind of does trigger reaction. So that's why I added all the functionality to try to centralize all the logic so I can call it multiple times depending on where I want to call it. For example, when I click on the button search, I will call the functionality behind the button, between button. And then within here, if I do, I think it's on select, I think. Uh, unselect. No, I think it's on change. Sorry. Yeah, on change. And I'm calling the same logic here. So if I go behind that particular button, what I'm doing right now, I'm using one of the connector, which is called Office 365 Groups, and it's very powerful in the sense that it allows you to do MS Graph call. So MS Graph is kind of the intelligent intermediate, which allows you to communicate to any of the M365 services like SharePoint. It could be OneDrive, it could be email, Outlook. It can do a lot of powerful action. And one of the thing is that if you can see, I'm just calling the MS Graph. And one of the thing that was that I needed to do because everything is in ID. So like this is like the root URL of MS Graph. No, I think this is just the root URL until the v10. And then after I'm specifying the path because it's SharePoint site, so I'm specifying sites. But if it was something else like email or something, then it would have been like me/email. And then after that, I'm specifying the site ID and I'm specifying the list ID. Both are great, and I do have a a blog post where I explain how I got those values using PMP PowerShell. But if you use the Graph Explorer, just show you, I don't have. Uh, I just didn't really kind of load it how to get the site ID and the list ID in here. But definitely you can use this particular Graph Explorer to find out how to get the site ID, this ID, and as well as to test whether your query is working. And one of the drawback of using MS Graph is by default, it will return like 200 records. And in case if I want more records, and in case like the search that we are doing, returns more than 200 records, there is a property which is called at or data next link, which is going to be pre-populated with a URL how to get the next 200 records. So that's why I'm saving the URL into a particular parameter. Right now, if you look at the query, I'm just passing only the yeah, I think it's yeah, it's just a product name currently. Have not passed the category um, value only because I wanted to show like because I don't have enough data for each particular category. It's just to show like how to retrieve more than 200 records if ever you need to display more than the 200 records. And yeah, so that's run, and I'm kind of taking all the results from the MS Graph and try to format it into a collection structure so that I can easily bind the collection to a gallery control. And I'm just setting the total records again, like the count rows, which I need like to keep count how many records I have. And I'm using that one as well as with pagination. But anyway, I can do another session with pagination. And then if you look, and the other drawback about Power Apps, we don't have a loop control. We can't easily do like for each, for while, and like and the only way I kind of figured out, but yeah, definitely if you know a method how to do a better loop, please do kind of post in the comments so everyone learned from each other. So the only way I found was to use like a timer control. So I've added a timer control. Currently it's hidden in the app because I'm just using it for the looping. And I put the duration. I just say it to start on like 10 milliseconds. And then if I look on the timer end, but yeah, each duration interval it's going like to auto run, and then it will check whether the next link value, which I saved from my MS Graph call, is not empty, and then the total records is less than 1,000. Obviously, if you want to return all the records which fit the search criteria, you can remove it. The only drawback is around latency and and you have to think of the use case, what the end user is using it for. In case if the end user is trying like to search for a particular product, and if we have more than 1,000 records, or even 200, it's just it's a lot like for them to search. Maybe it's just better like to educate the user to kind of use a more specific search. More it will kind of limit the number of records that it's going to return. So each time the timer control gets is run, like after the duration is lapsed, it's going to check that particular value, and if it's not blank, it's going like to call the MS. Yeah, it's going to call like the next link, because the next link is actually a URL, MS Graph call again. And then again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just like build on the original collection and just adding the results from the subsequent calls until I got, and then it won't run anymore if these criteria is not met, like the total records is more than 1,000 and the next link is blank. And yeah, and like now right now, yeah, I got up to 41 pages, but I think in one particular page I might have like 10 records, and we must have like roughly like 1,000. And using this method, you can get around the delegation limit, but we have uh, trying like to get records from SharePoint list, and yeah, so an alternative to keep your solution lean in case it is just a simple search that you're doing. That's all from me.
Thanks to you, Reshmee, for an excellent session and those super useful tips. Your insights are really on the handling of delegation limits in the Power Apps, and the Microsoft Graph API was spot on and incredibly helpful for us. We appreciate your clarity, depth, and the practical guidance you shared with the community. And I'm personally looking forward more and more learning from you in the upcoming session. Thank you again.